I love it. Welcome to the Secret Deciphered. Here's some music for you from Byron's favorite band.
Yes, the Beach Boys. Yes.
Hey guys.
Beach Boys.
That song still jams even today.
Eric, it's a pleasure to meet you sort of in person, but not really. I hope that we get to meet one of these days.
We will. Nice to see you too.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you guys here today and to do a little bit of a cafe clutch conversation about all things fun, secret, world related. So welcome guys. We have Eric Thomas and we have Ben Asen, and of course Eric runs the Secret by Byron Preiss 12 Puzzles group on Facebook, and we're excited to have him here and ask some questions of both of them, and Ben as well, giving us some insights and some memories on Byron and taking questions from all of you. So we've compiled a nice list. We're going to try to get through as many as time will allow, and we will start it off, and I'll let Eric start off with the first few questions.
Yeah, I got three. I got a member on my page, Sajeev Kumar, wants to know from you, Ben, if you took any pics at the Philly Museum or Love Park art symbolism.
I was just in Philadelphia about a week ago doing an assignment down there. No, I've taken photographs at the Philly Museum, but never for the Secret. Never. You know what? In retrospect, if I had been to Philadelphia and known about that museum, I would have made a suggestion, but Byron might have knocked it down. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he meant by Love Park art. Maybe you know what that's. I'm not familiar with Love Park.
I might know it by sight. I've been to Philly a number of times in the last 10 years, a lot actually.
I believe that park has a lot of there's like outdoor sculptures and stuff. I think that might be what he's talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it does. And you have the museum that's there, but also the really big park where Rocky was filmed on the steps outside.
That's the Philadelphia Art Museum. That's on the other entrance.
Yeah.
And you also have the Rodin Museum with 98 pieces of Rodin sculpture.
Yeah.
And the guy that donated it came over on a ship right before the ribbon cutting to open it, and he died.
Oh, wow.
And never got to see the opening of his museum for Rodin. That's amazing, huh?
Wow.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I love Philadelphia, and I love it being on the radar as one of our questioned cities, mainly because, Byron went to school there, correct?
Oh, yeah. He went to University of Pennsylvania. And, when you went away to college for 4 years, I didn't actually. I stayed home and went to college. But, you spend more time at your college town in the 4 years than you do at home with your mom and dad or whatever, friends. So Philly, I'm sure, meant something to him. It's the place where he started a comic book series with Rick Steranko, the great illustrator.
Yeah, Jim Steranko.
Jim. No, I know Rick Steranko. That's why I keep saying Jim Steranko. And to help kids how to read. So Philly, and even after he graduated, he talked about Philadelphia and Penn and how much he liked the school, and it meant so much to him.
And it's a special place too in American history when you think about it, because you have Ben Franklin, who started the university.
That's right.
Trying to make education affordable for all, no matter what your religious background was.
Well, yeah, and University of Pennsylvania now is one of the few schools that they don't want any kids to have financial aid. They have enough donors that they could finance their education. It's pretty incredible.
It's amazing. Yeah. Eric, what's the next question?
Let's see. Tav Annie want to know if you knew if Byron was a crossword puzzle fan.
Yes, he was.
He was.
I was not, but I don't know if he was obsessive about it. I mean, I have friends that if they get the New York Times and someone else in the family tries to grab the crossword puzzle, it's over.
It's over.
Yeah,
Now,
my
of course,
father was
now-
like that.
Now, of course, I have friends that download it from a computer. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
my dad was. I have a cousin that was. My dad was religious about it. He loved doing it. He just a lot of fun. I just wasn't like that. So, but he was. Yes, he was.
Well, it would make sense since he's a communications major, right? And he loved words. The first crosswords actually appeared in England during the 19th century. So it would make sense that coming from the quote unquote mother country, they started some of the early word, grammar, language kind of puzzles, right? And then,
Right. Yeah.
And then we kind of did our own thing.
It's like playing with words. That's a crossword. I was never good at crosswords. My father was incredibly talented with crosswords. But it's basically, crosswords. My father used to say they're hard words. You got a poem verse from The Secret. He said hard words are words that people either don't use anymore or have similar meanings, but they're just not commonly used.
Yeah.
So he said it expands your vocabulary when you start realizing there's other words that mean the same thing.
Right.
By definition.
And I think the depth of understanding and comprehension is better. Some people, and especially in this day and age, you can Google a word and you think, oh, that's the definition of it. But if you really look over time, words change lexicographically. And they have meetings of lexicographers that go in and they keep determining, what words mean for printing of dictionaries. So over time, we've used some of the words before, but even one that's been debated lately, which is the word ruddy. Ruddy can mean a multitude of things, not just one thing. And so it really takes a person's, mind to really want to sit and look back through history and see when was it first used and where did it come from and these kinds of things, because I feel like that's a really key component with a lot of the words in The Secret.
It is.
What meaning was Byron wanting us to find?
Sure. And some of these words, when today when we can Google them, there's definitions for the words. I never even knew that word meant this. So I with The Secret book, I take a lot of these words and go just search it, all definitions, and it'll show you when it was used, where it came from, when it was most commonly used, if it's even like really used anymore. And you can learn a lot from a single word. And I think that's a lot of the wordplay that's in this book is simply the definitions of them.
Or even if you take the word dauntless, daunting was used, and we're really prior to Shakespeare by epic writers, but Shakespeare is actually kind of given the credit for creating the word dauntless. And so I think some of those things are important to know when we're looking at the verses. But what do you think, Ben? Do you think Byron likes?
I'll tell you what I'm trying to do right now. This is the FAO Schwartz book. I think I shot the Scrabble, didn't I, for the book?
You
Scrabble board.
Yes, you did.
Byron, I don't remember playing Scrabble with Byron or our kids together. I know we did stuff like Monopoly and Risk and those, and those board games. But unfortunately, by the time Byron's kids got to be, they're a little younger than my boys. The computer games just took over. Simon and all these other computer board games.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure Scrabble's in the book. I just can't. The index is not very good, actually. But
well,
if you're good at crosswords, you're good at Scrabble. I'm not good at Scrabble either.
No, No, and
At
I have
all.
friends that could, they can get like 80 points in one row like that. It's like without even looking, And
Yeah.
I don't think it has to do with like being a great reader all the time, because there are a lot of books that you read a murder mystery. I mean, they're not going to come up with these crazy words. I don't know. But he definitely was a fan of crossword puzzles. There's no doubt about it. I remember like when I go to his house in Long Island for a weekend, he'd be in his bathrobe, and doing a crossword puzzle or doing something, He didn't sleep like a lot of people. He's like me, he'd get up at 2:00 in the morning tonight and wander around just for an idea. So,
Creative minds.
well, yeah, but not all creative minds work that way. There are some creative minds that work on a very, very rigid schedule.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm going to write. This is what I'm going to paint. Then I'm going to go out to a cafe. I'm not like that either. I do things in the spur of the moment. I mean, I'm waiting for a late day sunset in New York because I have a shot I want to get on the west side of a water tower, and it's been overcast every afternoon. So I'm hoping maybe today. We'll see. Just go across Central Park, and I got the photograph. I know I have it if the light is right.
So
Good.
whenever you're this meticulous about your beautiful photographs, tell us about some of the directives that you may have received from Byron in regards to shooting, say, the foul sewer ogre. Did Byron shoot some of the photos himself, or did you do all of them?
I shot. I know Byron didn't shoot him. I shot it, like in a dark street. I really can't remember where I did it. I know I did the what do you call it? The
gin. Yeah.
That one I did all the way downtown, and there was an actor that one of the editors from Byron's office knew, and he just wanted to get his face in a book, and Byron gave him a credit, but like when I took the what's it called, the left wing, right wing, whatever it's called.
Yeah, the trog.
Right? Okay.
Simp trog. Yeah.
He gave me 3 ideas. Okay, shoot it in front of the Washington Monument, shoot it near with the White House in the background, and shoot it with the Capitol in the background. Now, of course, we're talking about 1981. There was no Homeland Security. There was no terrorist attack. And basically, you could walk in, up the Capitol steps with no one really stopping you until you get to the door. Okay.
Yeah.
So I went to the Washington Monument. It was a weekend. And what happened was I said, Byron, I'm going to Washington for the weekend with Betsy. Let me know when you want to start the book. He said, you know what? You can start it now. Because I need something shot in Washington. So, I took it in a shopping bag. I put it into the trunk of my car, and we drove down to Washington. Okay. Could you imagine trying to well, first of all, so the Washington Monument was just out of the question because the height of the monument was so high. I would have had to bring the sculpture way back. And at that point, there were trees, there were other buildings blocking the Washington Monument. I would have had to go like at least 200 yards away. So it just wasn't the way to do it. Now, of course, digitally, you could do some magic. Then I went to the White House. There's a gate around the White House. I would have had to been up in a tree or in a hotel room somewhere. So I get to the Capitol, and I put the sculpture out on this marble wall, and I'm taking pictures. Betsy's standing there with me, and people walking by, and some people go like, "Oh my God!" Other people like just walk by. Eric? Could you imagine doing this in 2022 and not getting arrested? And they would have grabbed the sculpture, got a bomb squad. I mean, it's another world. So
Yeah.
So that's the story really of how I got that picture. I mean, I also went to Florida because I have a lot of relatives there. My uncle left New York when he was like about 25 to be a boxer in Miami, ended up being a roofer, but he raised a family, and other family members went down to Miami. So I have a lot of family in Miami. So I was going to Miami, and he said, I got another sculpture that Joe Ellen just did. So Joe Ellen would come with me if it was in New York. She didn't go on any of the trips with me. There just wasn't any money for that. And, you know, which is kind of.
How would you pack the dolls or the sculptures?
I'd wrap them up in like tissue paper and then put them into a shopping bag.
And just carry them on?
What?
And just carry them like on the plane or
Yeah, on the plane or the trunk of the car, or you know, the back seat of the car. Yeah, yeah.
Joe Ellen's going shopping bag. I'm working a shopping bag.
You know, if Joe Ellen was smart, she would have given me a shopping bag that said Joe Ellen Sculptures or something, or Ben Asen photography.
I was going to ask you in DC if you had that sculpture in like a briefcase, which would have looked really suspicious if you're walking.
No, they were too big for an attaché case. But I know what you're talking about. It's like the small businessman. He's walking with the. With the case.
They would have spotted you real quick.
You know
this guy coming.
So I mean, so I went to Miami with the sculpture that's based on the actor Robert Morley, the British actor who Joe Ellen had created this for the 25th anniversary of the Playboy magazine, which also had the Marlon Brando interview in it, the only Marlon Brando interview in it. And Joe Ellen had the sculpture in there. And it was Robert Morley who wrote an article, Why the British Like to Dress in Drag. And Eric looks astonished, doesn't he? No.
It's very relevant to today.
Yes, it is. So then a few years, then almost instantly we did The Secret a few years later, and Joe Ellen reworked the sculpture into the real estate broker. And Byron said to me, fine, I want an empty piece of property, make it look like a swamp or something. And so I told my uncle who lived in Miami, he said, I'm going to drive you out to a place called Kendall, which is past University of Miami, where my oldest son went to school, and where Shorty's Ribs is actually. I'm not going to get into an argument, Eric. Shorty's Ribs are the best. Anyway, here we go.
No, we got tons of rib joints here.
I'm sure you do. But anyway, and I took the sculpture and we put it in front of this fence, and it said, for sale. The for sale sign was there. I mean, how great is that? And that was the picture. And then I put it back in the shopping bag, and it flew back to New York.
With that said, did Byron ever send you to any specific cities to take a photo for the book? That's a question from someone.
All right. So here it is. He knows I had found, when I had been married about a year, okay? And still I'm married to that same person, by the way.
She's amazing.
She puts up with a lot. She really does. But Byron knew I had a sister-in-law out there, and I had a couple of friends in LA and San Francisco. He said, when you go to LA and San Francisco, I really want you to take a couple of sculptures out there, okay? Which we did. The one of the woman in those running shoes in Santa Monica Boulevard with the palm trees, that was done there. We did the Boogeyman in 2 locations. We did the Boogeyman actually at a Tower Records in LA. And I, by the way, when he told me Tower Records, I didn't even know what Tower Records was, because I really had never been to California until 1978. And Tower didn't come to New York till about, I want to say like 85, 86. It's gone now. I mean,
just recently. Yeah,
just recently, the last one. So I didn't know much about Tower Records, but I knew from my music friends, Tower Records. You go in Tower Records and you're looking at a Beach Boy album, Dennis Wilson might be on the other side looking at a Beethoven album. Just don't know. That's the kind of record store it was. And the same thing in San Francisco. So I took the Boogeyman to San Francisco, and we stayed with our friend Bill, who was at the time living in the oldest house that survived the 1906 earthquake.
Wow.
Unfortunately, he wasn't able to keep it, but he's in another house now. It's really nice in Berkeley. So we shot the boogeyman on the rail of the back porch, okay, in color and black and white. So happy I just found that color slide. It's now on my website. I'm very excited. But so we shot that there, and there's actually somebody who, when I started the Secret podcast a year ago, someone emailed me that they knew the address of the person whose house was taken out because he worked for a title company in Northern California. Eric, he drove down 3 or 4 hours to San Francisco with Google Maps and whatever else they use for titles. And he found, so he said, I found the title in 1981 to this guy, Bill Issel. Can I contact him? I said, no. I said, I'll contact him, but he doesn't even live there anymore. But could you imagine? You couldn't do that in 1981. You couldn't do that in 2001.
No, I mentioned on the page the other day that I spent 4 months trying to figure out where that back porch was. And like you said, you were LA, Byron, LA and San Francisco. I know why he sent you to LA, and I know why he sent you to San Francisco. One's a puzzle, one's a cast city, one's a book story. Mm-hmm. Which everybody knows which one that is. It's not too hard to figure out in the book. But
Byron did go to Stanford, which is in California. I mean, so he spent a lot of time out there as well. But he was always going to California, always, because he worked with celebrities, Billy Crystal, Jerry Seinfeld, Ray Romano, Joni Mitchell, Paul Simon, and the list goes on.
Beach Boys.
He did, right, but Byron did the first celebrity books for kids. Nobody did them until Byron did them.
Yeah.
Paul Simon at the zoo. What's it about? It's about a little boy going to the zoo.
I have another really good one too over here.
And then there's Both Sides Now by Joni Mitchell and Billy Joel. I'm so mad I never got to photograph Billy Joel.
Yeah, this is a good one too.
So I did get to photograph his ex-wife, Christy Brinkley, and she's really nice and very funny.
I knew a girl years ago that met Billy Joel on a cruise. He was on a cruise by himself.
Wow.
She showed me pictures, and she was just like, she said she just walked up to him and said, "Are you Billy Joel?" And he said, "Yeah." He was all, but I think this was right after he divorced Christy Brinkley. She said nobody recognized him, but she had a photo at the rail to Ocean in the background, and he had a black suit on.
That's so funny.
And she said he was sitting on a lounge chair out on the deck. And I said, well, maybe he just needed to get away from it all,
That's right. Got to take a little break. So with the authors that you mentioned, I have a question from Mike Stewart.
Sure.
So he wants to know, did you talk a lot about your favorite authors and books? He knows that, Ben and Byron were a fan of Herman Melville when he asked you that question when he had visited NYC. Yeah. So did you talk about some of your favorite authors together?
Is that Byron read the book. I read the classic comic.
Got to.
Anyway, we didn't talk much about, we talked about some authors. First of all, you have to understand something. Sandy, his wife, is a book publicist, and we actually were in California. I think it was LA. I don't think it was San Francisco. Maybe it was San Francisco. And we were going out to eat with Byron and Sandy for dinner. And we're walking into a restaurant, and walking out is one of Sandy's clients, Alvin Toffler, who wrote the book Future Shock, which was a huge, I think, the New York Times bestsellers for a couple of years at least.
Yeah.
So, so their world was writers and authors. I wish Sandy could have represented Harper Lee Byron published To Kill a Mockingbird, because that's still my favorite book, and it always will be my favorite book. It's the first book that meant something to me.
And it's referenced in the Secret book as well.
And it's referenced in the Secret book, which I actually did not know until about a year ago.
Yeah.
So, but she still, if you go on my Facebook page, I think when you go to my about, I think I have Harper Lee in there. I'm pretty sure.
Mhm.
And little side note: Truman Capote used to live down the block from us. Not when I was here, but he lived with his mother. He was like about 10, 11 years old, and he was sent down to the South to spend the summer, and that's that little boy with the eyeglasses in To Kill a Mockingbird. Remember, he was always wearing those little bow ties.
Mm-hmm.
And then Harper Lee ended up coming up here, and she lived about 15 blocks from us in an apartment on York Avenue.
It's such a small world.
Yeah.
But yet the literary world is so vast.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was always exposed to a lot of writers. If, we went to book parties and there would be publishers there, there would be authors there. I didn't always feel, it wasn't my comfort zone, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So some of them I didn't want to go to. But I went to a few. And, when Sandy had her 25th anniversary of her business, we had it. And there were some great writers. Dominic Dunn was there. I mean, some really incredible writers. So they both knew a lot of people. And I was fortunate enough to be his friend, and I was good enough to take photos for him, I guess.
That's awesome.
I'm actually better now.
Well, we all get better, right? With time. We perfect our craft.
Yeah, that's actually a discussion I'd like to have with John Palikar one day, just because it's the same thing with painting and illustrating. You know what? I never stop learning.
That's right.
I'm always looking to get a little better.
That's right.
And if you don't, no matter what you do for a living,
you'll stagnate.
Exactly. You'll stagnate.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's fun to learn. And you mentioned the books. That's such a big part of the Secret book. There's a lot of clues in there. And if you look a lot of these clues up and you're trying to figure out what they mean, they might just mean a book. It might be a reference to a book. And I had someone go, well, that wouldn't make any sense. And I said, well, Byron's a book publisher. It would make complete sense.
Right.
And before there were photos and videos, it was writing. Everything was writing.
Exactly. And, Byron, even though he was fairly successful with the CD-ROMs, his real passion was books. And I could tell you that right now, when we would wander into a bookstore either out in Long Island or Barnes and Nobles, and the kids were with us. He lived near a Borders bookstore, that's another company that's gone. I remember going in there with the kids, and he would just, he plopped down on the floor. There's a great bookstore in New York called the Books of Wonder. I actually shot the science fiction writer Fritz Leiber in the window of that bookstore for one of his books. And Byron even had a couple of book signings there for a couple of his children's books, which was a no-brainer, because you'd bring kids into the bookstore and the author would be there, read the book. And in the same bookstore was a little bakery called the Cupcake Cafe. So you had your birthday cake there. It was all cupcakes with candles. It was great.
Oh, I remember those.
I did a bunch of those. I think we might have done the Billy Crystal book there, if I'm not mistaken. So, but Billy Crystal was not at the book, not there. So,
I got one more question for you, Ben.
Sure, go ahead.
Did Byron ever talk to you why he stopped the mail-in solve in 2004?
Why he stopped the what?
He was allowing people, the Secret book, to actually, you could mail in where you thought the cask was, and so if you couldn't physically travel. And he stopped. I think he stopped that in I don't know if it's in an email or anything like that.
And was it mailed to a PO?
Yeah, the back of the Secret book had you could fill out where you thought it was.
Oh yeah.
Specific details.
Yeah.
But he suddenly, Yeah, people still mention that. When I, I see people like, if I fill out the back and I mail it in,
No, I don't do that.
and we have to say, no, they're not doing that anymore. I don't even know if that actually goes to anybody, if someone has done it without asking, but some people were wondering why he just suddenly stopped taking in, or if he was, if he was still even receiving
you know where it
anything.
is? Okay, I know the post office. It's the FDR station that's on 52nd and 3rd Avenue. That's the FDR station. It's a big post office. He didn't live that far away from there, so maybe.
Oh, so he probably moved. He may have
Yeah.
moved, and that's why the address changed in the book. So then he was like, "Don't mail them there. Maybe now
Right.
email."
Right,
them.
because
Yeah.
I forgot the year he moved to 25th Street. He actually used to have an office on like 58th Street, or right near Bloomingdale's. He actually he had a floor of a duplex office with another book publisher, I believe, or a lawyer, I can't remember. And it had a fire pole in it from one floor to another. And
Sweet.
and the guy who he sublet with was a much older guy. He was probably in his 70s. He would come down the fire pole like all the time in a suit. It was like kind of funny.
I'm getting a Ghostbusters vibe.
You know what's nice about this? This is stuff I just haven't thought about in so long.
That's why I love doing this. I love the memories and to be able to talk about it. It gives us those 1980s glasses that we can kind of look through and see what the world kind of looked like and how it felt. When you'd mentioned him playing the Beach Boys in the beginning, and you have said that he went and stayed with the Beach Boys, right, on some kind of commune thing.
No. He stayed at the it was in Iowa. There's a very famous meditation center. So Byron went there to interview them and stuff. I don't know how long he stayed there for. I can't visualize Byron meditating actually, but I actually recently have started to do a little meditating.
Meditation is good. It's good for
it's
mental relaxation and decompression for sure.
Yeah, because we start off the day, like turning on a TV, listening to the news, which is not good.
Yeah.
Making coffee is okay. But, just, we need a little bit of time once we wake up just to sort of like calm ourselves. And so I know a lot of people. I have a friend who meditates for years. You cannot call her between 6:30 and 7:30 a.m. in the morning. Just, my phone's off. Don't call me.
Yeah. I'm busy thinking and decompressing.
Exactly. So
I have another question here. What's the most bizarre theory or question on The Secret that someone has directly asked you? Question from Lisa Wing.
Oh, hi, Lisa. A couple. I mean, one was that someone thought, did Byron play sports? I said, I'll be honest with you, I don't know if he did organized sports. I said, but I used to do Little League with my brother. My brother is maybe 6 months older than Byron, I think. Was. And so we used to play in Prospect Park at the parade grounds, which was a pretty well-known place to play Little League. Joe Pepitone played there before he went into the majors and played for the Yankees. So, so this guy says to me, oh, so I think, do you know if Byron buried a cask at possibly a home plate at one of those fields at the parade grounds across Central Park? And I answered him right. I said, listen, I don't know where anything was buried. I keep telling people that. It's like, it's
you can make a guess, but that's all you can do, right?
Yeah, but I'm not here to throw people off, really.
Sure.
I mean, if I think I have a theory about something, like I knew Byron liked a certain pizza better than other pizzas, I would say that. But when it came to stuff like, where stuff is buried in the theory, I'm the first one to tell people I didn't read the book. Okay, I mean, I read parts of it, but I just didn't read the book. George Rapp once said he never saw any of his movies. So he said that to Johnny Carson, the Johnny Carson show. And
Johnny Depp just did the same thing.
Yeah, right. Well, his last few, I could see why. But
Johnny Depp goes to the premiere and then he leaves.
And he leaves. Yeah.
And he said, "I've never seen any of my own movies." I was like,
right.
Because he said he does his job, and then what they do with it after, he has no control of. So,
right.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that he hasn't watched one of his own movies, but he says
how can you not watch Edward Scissorhands? I mean, come on.
Oh yeah, he's got some of the best. Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
And not only that, but how about Leonardo DiCaprio's role in Edward Scissorhands?
That's right. He was a young
one. He's the little brother.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were in Who's Eating Gilbert Grape together too.
But now he's going to be in Beetlejuice. They're doing.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? It's Gilbert Grape. That's right. Gilbert Grape. That's right.
Yeah.
It's going to be in Beetlejuice.
They're talking. Winona Ryder has signed on, and
it's not a remake. Is
Johnny Depp.
A remake?
They're going to do some sort of.
No, it's a sequel.
Yeah. So I'll definitely have to watch that.
Except for The Godfather and maybe one other comedy, nobody comes up with original ideas.
I know. I'm trying to figure out what Johnny Depp's going to do in Beetlejuice.
The 80s were amazing. That's why. So everybody has to remake them.
Oh, so is that why? Because you know what's coming to Broadway? Back to the Future. Oh, I love
it.
It's a great movie. Leave it alone.
So
people still want them to make a sequel to that. I was like, there's been 3. And at the third one, it said the end.
That's right.
It's over.
It's over.
Like, they're not going to come back. Michael J. Fox with, I'd love to see it if they redid it, but
for sure.
They can't. What are they going to do? More time traveling? I was like, they've beat that to death. So
yeah. So
you want to get in these pictures now, Karen?
Sure.
Yeah. Let's do it.
I'll let you hold them up. First, I want to do page 55.
Oh, we have the gin.
Yeah, that was taken. I was taken in a park. I just, I want to say it's probably Central Park, only because we did a couple of there. And Jo Ellen lived at the time. She lived right near Central Park, down in the 50s. I know we did 3 or 4 shots. And Karen, you know about one that you went to see.
The Birds of Prey.
Birds of Prey on 72nd Street near the band shell.
Yes.
Took me forever to find that statue.
Really?
Yeah. But that statue is kind of confusing to the Secret book because we know that is in Central Park. Mm-hmm. But Byron supposedly there was an email that was floating around that a girl was asking about Central Park, and Byron said Central Park contains no treasure. Basically hinting that get out of Central Park, it's not there.
Or could we say when Byron says those things, could we pretty much take that as fact? Or is it more like,
Yeah. That brings up a question I didn't write down. Someone wanted to ask Ben, would Byron lie? He totally lied to everybody, deceive everybody with everything in the book. Red herrings, white lies, big lies. Like when he says the book's easy in an interview when he was promoting it.
Yeah.
Which obviously it's not. I think it is when you figure it out. But when you start, the book reads like Japanese stereo instructions when you first start.
Maybe he said the book was easy because he wanted more people to buy it.
That's
I told people he wouldn't say, hey, the book's incredibly difficult. It's going to rack your brain. You're going to have a mental breakdown. Nobody would have bought it. I said it's marketing.
What it's like? I've shot a lot of chemists and scientists over the years, and engineers, and I was not a very good science student. But when I went back to photograph these people and they explained theories to me and about engineering and how a bridge is built, I said to myself, God, I wish I was interested in that stuff when I was 17. Just because this stuff's really interesting.
Yeah.
For some reason, whoever I had as a teacher just didn't present it right, and just made it so dry.
Yeah. The teacher makes the difference.
Oh
yeah.
my God. I mean,
does.
I had some great, Byron and I both had a couple of history teachers at Midwood High School that were just fantastic. They were older. They were two older guys. I can't think of the names, and a woman. They were all great history teachers. But history is fun to teach. It's biology, to make it interesting for a kid, it's not easy. I'm sure there are ways now to do it, especially with like digital artwork and showing stuff. You could basically go into a person's body and look at arteries and veins and stuff. You couldn't do that then. So
yeah, no, I think that, when we think about all the history that Byron wanted to kind of touch on throughout the secret book to make that part of the puzzle was really genius, because it really mattered if you knew the history in order to obtain a key. And when we think about going back to 1980 and thinking the only way that we could talk to Byron at that time was either a handwritten letter, which was a lot cheaper than making some collect call from
right.
long distance call from wherever you were, right? So a kid in Iowa wanting to call New York and ask Byron questions. I mean, in 1980, 81, 82, that was like crazy expensive money. And the book at the time wasn't super cheap. I mean, it was a fair amount for a kid in grade school or high school or young adult.
Yeah.
And so I
And
think
the book industry back then was huge compared to today. Most people, you can do stuff on your phone, but like if you wanted information back then, it's like you're at the library or you're at the bookstore.
right.
Get it. You didn't have the internet stuff.
That's right.
So
you had to use the tools that were around you, right? And so that's been almost part of kind of a treasure hunt in and of itself, is finding some of these older books that Byron would have used on American folklore, immigration, indigenous tribes, all of that. And so I guess when we're asking if he wrote in latter emails, there's no treasure here or this or that, can we take that at face value, or should we assess it from an angle of the game of opposites, or
and I had, also, if you go back, this is when I was talking to you on the phone, Ben, I mentioned this, the state of the parks of Manhattan and Brooklyn and everywhere else during the process of making the book to its release. And I've seen a lot of people. I'm on like a New York historical page, and a guy told me, "Oh man, those parks were so dangerous. You didn't even go into them back then."
It's kind of funny. We're talking about how unsafe New York City is now and stuff. Can I tell you something? I moved into Manhattan in, I think it was June of '77. That was the year of a very big riot on the Upper West Side. My parents called me up and they said, "You can't move." Actually, my mother was no longer alive. My dad called and said, you can't move there, Ben. I said, "Dad, the movie truck's here." They were breaking store windows. It's not great now, okay? But when I hear politicians say this is the worst it's ever been, these politicians obviously have never lived in New York City, because the 60s, 70s, and up to like the mid 80s were really bad. Were really bad.
And I
think that's why you can take that comment of him saying that there's no treasure there, then he probably means it.
I will tell you this though, because I'm a member of the Central Park Conservancy, just because I feel I use the park. So, when people say, "Don't you miss having a backyard, Ben?" I always go, "Are you kidding me? I have almost 800 acres of backyard. I've never mowed a lawn in my life." So I got the greatest backyard there. I got a zoo. I got a science museum. I got coffee places.
Got Teddy Roosevelt's
That's
museum
Teddy
there, right?
Roosevelt, right? Exactly. So in those days, you probably could have dug up with a bulldozer and they would have not done anything to you. Central Park Conservancy, most people are volunteers.
Yeah.
Most of them are not, and not just older people. I have a lot of young people too, but a lot of seniors. They have nothing to do. You can't just go in and dig. And I don't think it's that easy to get permits. I really don't. You would have to have a really phenomenal explanation of why you think the cask might be buried under something in the park.
Someone just mentioned that too, that the city of New York is going to be
Very
doing like San Francisco. They're going to let you get a dig permit.
Yeah, they have. We have a few people in our group that have received their permits and had permission to dig and stuff. So that is actually happening.
But when they dig in New York, there's still going to be someone there from, the office to make sure that they don't damage stuff, and that if they don't think they're digging properly to conserve what's around them, they're going to stop the dig. I guarantee it.
Well, that wraps up part 1 of our video with Eric and Ben. Check back in a little while for part 2.